Hello everyone, I hope life is treating you kindly. I'm Lubomira and thank you for joining me today. Welcome to all my crafty friends new and returning. I always look forward to our crafting time together. Now that I have you here, please remember to like and subscribe if you haven't already. By hitting that little bell, you'll get notified every time I post something new and you won't miss out on any of the crafty goodness. Today I'm sharing a fake it until you make it video, the holiday edition, where I dive into my stash to create the feel of a product that I don't have but love the look of. Owning every product I love is simply not possible, but that doesn't mean we have to necessarily miss out on it. In this video, I'm spotlighting the pretty pink Posh Fringe tree die. Now I love this company and I regularly buy from it. I think that the products are very cute and I love the fonts that they use in both their stamps and dies. Overall, it's just a nice company with fun designs and clever products, this die being no exception. The price of this die isn't outrageous either, but sometimes it's not just the price that determines whether I get something. Storage and practicality and even time to get the item also play a role. A lot of the time I see an inspiration and I need the product like yesterday, so I try to find suitable substitutes so I don't lose time on waiting for something to arrive. And that's pretty much the case with this set. Having said that, let's take a closer look at this die. What I really love about this set is its simplicity. It has a fun modern abstract feel to it, and there are a number of ways to use it. You can use each of the triangles on its own and create a large grove of abstract trees, or you can layer the triangles to create a fuller tree. I love the fringe at the bottom as well. It's just a nice simple detail that adds a lot to the design. The simplicity of it makes a great option to create a dupe of. I think I can recreate this look by using some nesting triangle dies I already have, and I can recreate the fringe by hand. Now if you don't have triangle dies, you can still recreate this look by hand since the triangles are pretty simple. Let me take a look at my stash and see what I can come up with. I was able to pull this Tim Holtz stacked tiles triangle die from Sizzix. These will work really nicely to recreate that layered tree look. I'm going to die cut these from a dusty pink cardstock. I'm keeping it easy for myself and grabbing paper from a coordinating paper pack. That way I'll save myself some time and honestly frustration with paper picking. Coordinating patterns is not one of my strong points in crafting, so I definitely appreciate paper pack collections. I also need to die cut some background pieces. Arches are always a nice way to frame a scene or an element, so I'm going to use the Pink and Main Stitched Arches die to cut two of the mid-sized dies, one from the dusty pink color and a smaller one from a white cardstock. I'm still going to need a trunk. I'll use the leftover cardstock from the triangles to trim a strip about 1/2 inch wide and 2 inches long, just to give myself enough paper to work with. I can always trim the trunk later if I need to. To create the tree, I'm going to layer the triangles, but first I have to decide how many layers to use. The original inspiration also has this feature where you can decide how to create the tree. I think I'll probably use all the layers to make it fuller, but that doesn't leave too much space for decorating since the layers are going to be close together, and I still want to add that fringe too. If you want a larger gap between the layers, all you have to do is take out some of the layers in between, and that will add more space. For the fringe, I'm using a pencil to add temporary marks. My grid is helping me find the center of each triangle and making the fringe look more uniform. This really isn't that necessary, so you can eyeball this if you want to. I'm also keeping the fringe shorter because the layers of the tree are so close together. After cutting the fringe, I'll erase the marks carefully, making sure not to rip any of the fringe. To give the tree a little bit more dimension after I cut it, I'll slightly curl the fringe up using a pen or paintbrush. After gluing the layers, I have to add the trunk to the tree. I want it to appear as if it was deeper under the branches, so I attach it to the back with some thin foam squares. I'm using 1mm squares to build up the dimension in this card to minimize the bulk. The trunk is also a little long, so I give it a quick trim with a pair of scissors. I'm almost ready to start putting this card together, but the white arch is a little plain. I'm going to add a little texture to it using a stencil. I'm going for a tone-on-tone look with some picket fence paper glaze. I'm using the Snowdrop white color, which is very similar to the Arctic Fox. It just doesn't have as much shimmer to it as the Fox one does. I really like this stencil, Follow That Star from Honeybee. It's the newest addition to my stencil collection, and I love how subtle it is. It just adds a hint of detail to a background. Now that I have most of the parts of this card, I can assemble it. I attach a coordinating paper from the scrapbook.com Snow Days paper pad to a white card base using liquid glue. Then I add the arches, first the larger pink one, to the front of the card with foam squares and glue, followed by the white one. Again, to minimize bulk, I'm using the 1mm thick squares. I'm also using the liquid glue to give me the chance to adjust the placement of the arches, the glue allowing me for some wiggle time. Once the arches are in place, I can add the tree. I didn't leave much room for sentiment, so this part can be tricky. I didn't want to put anything over the tree to obscure it or take away anything from it. Whatever greeting I use, I wanted it to be either small or short. I ended up using the word joy. Now I had the Hero Art stamp set out. It was convenient to reach and I liked the font. However, it didn't just have the word joy, but rather joyful. To custom the stamp, I did some masking by using a post-it hinge to cover up part of the word and just stamped joy in Versamark ink on white cardstock. When I had the word stamp, I then sprinkled gold embossing powder over it and heat set it with my heat gun. This set has a coordinating die, and even though I altered the stamp, I can still use it. I just have to make some alterations to it. I layered the greeting with 2 layers and then snipped the unstamped part off. The more you layer it, the harder trimming the unnecessary part will be. You could trim each layer one at a time, using the top layer as a guide to avoid the struggle of having to cut through multiple layers. I added the greeting to the front of the card using liquid glue, and I'm really happy how this is coming out. Next, I add some ornaments to the tree using some Nuvo crystal drops. I'm using Party Pink, Pale Gold, and Neptune Turquoise. These colors are as close to what I have in the background, and I think they'll work nicely to coordinate with the rest of the card. For the top of the tree, I want a bow. I created a double bow using some gold twine. I tied 2 simple bows and then tied them together with a 3rd string, trimming that string so that the bows didn't look like they were tied together in the first place. I waited for the Nuvo drops to set before adding the bow to the top of my tree. I didn't want the twine to accidentally smudge any of the Nuvo drops. I also like to add glue to the ends of my strings to prevent them from fraying. I simply add the glue to a fingertip and then roll the ends in the glue to seal them. Once I am done, I add the bow to the top of the tree using glue and then tack the bow ends to the card to contain them from being too chaotic. And that's it for this card. So what do you think? Is this a successful dupe? I'd like to think so. We have a layered tree with the fringe. The major difference being that it seems a little fuller than the inspiration because of the added layer of tree. Overall, I really like how this came out. Let me know what you think in the comments below. So this is the last card before Christmas. For those of you that celebrate, I'm sure last minute preparations are in full swing. My family is heading over to my mother-in-law's for Christmas, which you know I don't mind since I'm not a fan of cooking. I am, however, bringing along a traditional Christmas salad from my childhood that my family would prepare during Christmas Eve. My background is Polish, and while many Christians put a lot of preparation for Christmas, in Poland, the Christmas Eve dinner is very special. There's a lot of preparation that goes into it and a lot of symbolism that I thought would be nice to share with you. For someone that's never been at a Polish Christmas Eve, it can be a little strange. The first thing that is different than most dinners is that the meal consists of fish, fruit, and vegetables. We don't serve any meat on Christmas Eve. This is to honor the animals that were present at the birth of Christ, the animals in the manger that made room for the Holy Family when all others turned them away. There are 12 courses or dishes that are served, and tradition has it that you have to partake of all 12 to have good luck in the coming year. There is also an extra place setting at the table that remains open for both symbolic and practical reasons. The idea behind this is that during this time of giving, there's always room for extra people should they show up, and especially for Christ, both at the table as well as in our hearts. Another thing you might find peculiar is that there is straw somewhere on the table, either tucked under the place settings or tablecloth, or in a decorative arrangement in the center. This serves as a reminder of Christ's start in life, that greatness can come out of humble beginnings. My favorite part of the celebration was right before sitting down to the meal. We'd all break a Christmas wafer, which is called opłatek, and it's shared among the guests while exchanging best wishes for the coming year. These are just a few of the traditions that I had while growing up, and I thank you for letting me share them with you today. I'd love to hear some of your traditions, if you care to share them, in the comments below. And with that, dear friends, I wish you a very Merry Christmas. May you receive an abundance of love, joy, and blessings this holiday, and let your mind and heart be at ease always. I hope sorrow never darkens your doorway, and your troubles become only memories of a distant past. I hope you'll join me next time for another project. Until then, have a wonderful week, and I hope life treats you kindly. Take care. Bye.